Join us on the program right now. Very pleased to have with us Mark Keefe, the editor-in-chief of American Rifleman magazine. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing just fine. How are you this evening?
I'm good. It's been forever since we've had a chance to talk to you. So much to talk about. And before we get into the latest issue of American Rifleman magazine, I got to ask you because I haven't had a chance to speak with you since the Boy Scout Jamboree at Fort A.P. Hill. I know you were down there for that, right?
Yes, sir. I spent a couple of days down there volunteering, teaching rifle shooting merit badge, and I got to tell you, I was cracking up a little bit. I'm like, what a lead-in for me. You're talking to a scout leader that was teaching scouts, and after I left the Jamboree, I went to Camp Bowman where I used to work, and I spent a whole week volunteering on the rifle range and helped coach 43 scouts for the rifle shooting merit badge.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on doing that. I think it's fantastic what the Boy Scouts do in terms of, furthering our firearms heritage and teaching kids to be safe and responsible shooters, and you're a big part of that.
Well, a very small part, but thank you, Cam.
I think you're too modest, Mark. You're too modest. All right, so let's talk about the latest issue of American Rifle magazine. Boy, it is just jam-packed. I mean, not only do you have the special election section, because this is the October issue and we are getting close to primary day, you've got some fantastic features, including, by the way, the story that I want to get started with, the piece on John B Yankee.
You know, John B Yankee, he is an American legend. That guy, when the book was in development, and the article, of course, is based on the book that Dennis Adler wrote, and John stopped by the office, NRA. He was meeting with Wayne and some other people, and he went down to the front desk, called up to me, and asked if I had a minute. Of course, I have a minute for John B Yankee, and he has been a class act his entire life. He has left such a legacy and cast such a tall shadow. Everything he's done for shooters everywhere. I mean, the modern holster really is attributable to John B Yankee, and he is a gentleman. He is. I knew he had been in the reserves. I didn't know he was a general. I did not know that they called him back after 9/11. I mean, his whole life has been about service. It's been about innovation and hard work. He is an American success story like really no one else that I know personally, because he changed an entire industry through his hard work, his willingness to take risk. There's a shooting. Obviously, the Bianchi Cup is named after him, but that is just such a small part about what this fantastic man has done with his life.
And it's really interesting that you mentioned his military service, because in this profile, Dennis Adler talks with John about back in the early 80s when the Department of Defense called him and said, look, we're looking to replace the 1911 pistol. We haven't made a decision on what that'll be, but we also need to come up with a new holster. We read your book, and we're convinced that you're the final authority on holster design. And when he starts laying out, like, okay, look, here are all the things you need to think about, and he just lays it out, 13% of the military are left-handed. You don't have any left-handed holsters, so you got to have something that's ambidextrous. You got to have something that can appeal to all branches of the service. It has to be able to, handle any environment, whether it's salt water, whether it's dust, humidity. And the Department of Defense was, we never really thought of these things. This is why we called you.
Yeah, and it's funny. He is an American patriot. And an innovator, and he came up with the clasp system using parts of a beer can for the UM-84 system, which, of course, is really the basis of all the modern synthetic holsters. And, if you read a little deeper on that story, a brilliant design, but the government was like, wow, we don't have the money this year. And he's like, well, you know what? It's okay. No problem.
Yeah.
I worked this out, and I'll figure it out. And, of course, the government came back, and that holster still issued to some extent today. There are some other Serpa-type holsters that are issued as well, but really it set the standard for the modern synthetic holster.
Wow. Like I said, it's just it's a fantastic tribute to a guy who, as you say, has just revolutionized the industry. All right, so it's so much more to talk about.
We've only got 9 feature stories this month, Cam. I hope you have some time this evening.
We may have to have you back for part 2. All right, well, let's talk about the feature on the 275 Rigby.
Yeah, the Karamoja Bell rifle. You know, it's funny. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Africa last year, to Botswana, filming for Benelli on assignment. The shows have aired. I've been kind of on the sidelines on a couple of the shows, and I think the shows that I was hunting or will be featured as hunting will air next season. But I had a wonderful opportunity to spend time with Mike Evans, who is just a wonderful guy. He's one of the owners of the Evans Group. They're a firearms rep company, a sales company. And he used to rep for Benelli, and he's part of the Benelli family. He's not with them anymore. But he is a shooter, a hunter's hunter. He's as genteel and nice and genuine a man as you will ever meet. And he had the opportunity to buy a Sackett Street Rigby rifle in .275, which of course is basically the same as 7x57. That was, of course, owned at one point by Karamoja Bell, William Maitland Dalrymple. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that Bell, but the most famous elephant hunter of all time, probably one of the toughest men to ever walk the face of the earth, and certainly one of the bravest and one of the best marksmen, hunting marksmen to walk the face of the earth, able to, kill charging bull elephant with a 7mm. The guy had ice in his veins, and his rifle was consigned, and a guy named Malcolm Lyle, sold it to a writer you may have heard of by the name of Robert Ruark. And Ruark bought this gun for his godson, Mark Selby, and of course one of his dearest friends and his PH, Harry Selby, is still with us. And I got to tell you, I got to spend time with Mike Evans. I've gotten to shoot that rifle, of course, and I had a chance to really sit at the knee of Harry Selby. There's a picture of me literally sitting on the floor in the offices of Rand Safaris in Mound, Botswana, just listening to Harry Selby talk. One of the greatest professional hunters ever, one of the most genteel, nice, most genuine people you'll ever meet, and a shooter. And of course, Harry actually wrote this article for us. And that's to have, I'm not even sure I could compare it to anybody else living, to have an article written like that. Joe Coogan, who works for Benelli, was an apprentice PH to Harry, and worked for Harry, and is a dear personal friend of Harry's. And Harry, of course, knows the NRA, he knows American Rifleman, and when he decided to start writing, he talked to Joe and said, well, I'd really like to write for the American Rifleman, and we've made that happen.
Very, very cool. All right, now, Mark, we've only got like 2 minutes left here in the hour. Last feature that we'll talk about tonight, the Guns of the Falklands War. Martin K.A. Morgan writing this piece.
Yeah, my friend Marty Morgan used to be with the D-Day Museum, and when he wasn't actually working in the museum, he was leading battlefield tours all over the Normandy and France and Belgium. He's been to Okinawa, he's been to Iwo Jima, and he took a trip down to the Falklands. And I don't know where you were in 1982, but I have these vivid memories of Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, speaking to the British people and to the world. Mm-hmm. And the just horrific battle scenes that came out of this war, the sinking of the Atlantic Conveyor, the sinking of the big Argentine cruiser. And I once owned a rifle that had a British lower, L1A1 lower, and an Argentine upper, and I always called it the Falklands rifle. Really a remarkable war, not only for the service and sacrifice and bravery of the men that fought it, but just the similarity of the small arms systems that the opponents were using. They were both using high powers. They were both using versions of the Fusil Automatique Laguerre, the FNFAL. They're using the MAG, the Mitrailleuse Automatique, the GPMG, the gun that's become the M240 for the United States military. So they were very, very evenly matched in terms of the small arms that they used. And I thought Marty did a wonderful job with that article, conveying the spirit of the time. And, of course, a very accurate description. He got to go into a lot of military museums and collections in Argentina. They were very accommodating to him. And the Argentines, it's a very important part of their national culture.
Absolutely. Hey, Mark, unfortunately, that music means we are simply out of time, but I want to let folks know, AmericanRifleman.org, you can get every one of these features and a whole lot more online. AmericanRifleman.org. Mark, thank you so much for your time tonight, sir, and look forward to doing it again very soon.
Thank you very much. Great talking to you again.
Have a good night. Mark Keefe, Editor-in-Chief of American Rifleman.